Men, understanding female attraction isn't about analyzing every word she says over hours of conversation. It's about recognizing specific critical moments during dates when her unconscious reactions, split-second decisions, and instinctive behaviors reveal her genuine intentions more accurately than anything she might deliberately communicate, giving you immediate clarity about whether she's genuinely interested or just being polite. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, smash that like and hype button, and drop a comment if you've ever spent an entire date confused about whether she was actually interested, only to realize later that specific moments had already revealed the truth. Your experience might help another man recognize these revealing moments and understand female interest more accurately instead of remaining uncertain about where he stands. Moment 1. The bill arrives. Her immediate reaction. Before any discussion. When the bill arrives at your table and you observe her immediate instinctive reaction in the first 2 to 3 seconds before any discussion about payment happens, whether she reaches for her purse, makes eye contact with you, glances at the bill, then looks away, or sits back expecting you to handle it. This split-second response reveals her genuine intentions about the date and your potential together more accurately than anything she might say when you actually discuss who's paying. What this reveals? This reveals whether she views the date as mutual investment or your investment in pursuing her. Women who are genuinely interested in building something with you instinctively make some gesture toward contributing, reaching for their wallet, offering to split, or at minimum acknowledging the financial aspect rather than assuming you'll cover everything. This isn't about whether you should pay or whether she should pay. It's about her instinctive reaction, revealing how she categorizes the interaction. Notice the distinction between her immediate instinct and her eventual action. If her first instinct is reaching for her purse or offering to contribute, even if you decline and pay anyway, that instinct reveals she views this as mutual investment. If her first instinct is sitting back and waiting for you to handle it without any gesture toward contributing, even if she thanks you graciously afterward, that instinct reveals she views you as pursuing her rather than building something mutual. Watch her body language in that immediate moment. If she tenses slightly when the bill arrives, reaches toward her bag, or leans forward to look at the bill with you, these physical responses reveal engagement with the payment moment as shared experience. If she remains relaxed and passive, makes no move toward participating in the transaction, and maintains expectation that you'll handle it entirely, the passive reception reveals she's receiving your investment rather than investing herself. The deeper pattern. Pay attention to whether she offers verbal acknowledgement, even if not financial contribution. If she says something like, "Thank you for dinner," or "This was really nice of you after you pay," she's at least acknowledging your investment, even if not contributing financially. If she says nothing and simply moves on to the next part of the date, as if payment was assumed obligation rather than generous gesture, the lack of acknowledgement reveals entitlement rather than appreciation. Notice if she offers alternative contribution. If she doesn't offer to split, but says something like, "Let me get drinks after this," or "I'll get the next one," she's demonstrating investment in continuation and reciprocity. If there's no gesture toward any form of reciprocal investment, financial or otherwise, she's comfortable with one-directional resource flow, which reveals how she categorizes your dynamic. Moment 2. Your phone rings, her response to divided attention. When your phone rings during the date, or you need to briefly check an important message, and you observe her immediate reaction, whether she looks annoyed and impatient, uses the moment to check her own phone, seems unbothered and waits pleasantly, or shows curiosity about who's contacting you. This moment reveals how invested she is in your attention and whether she values your time together enough to be bothered by interruption. What this reveals? This reveals her level of engagement and investment in the interaction. Women who are genuinely interested in you feel disappointed or slightly annoyed when your attention diverts, because they're enjoying your presence and want your focus. Women who aren't particularly invested use your divided attention as opportunity to check their own phone or seem entirely unbothered, because they're not heavily engaged in the interaction anyway. Notice whether she waits for you or immediately disengages. If your attention diverts for 30 seconds and she waits attentively for you to finish, perhaps looking around the restaurant or sitting comfortably, but clearly waiting for your return to conversation, her patience reveals she values continuing the interaction. If she immediately pulls out her own phone and becomes absorbed in it the moment your attention diverts, her quick disengagement reveals she's not particularly invested in your presence. Watch for signs of territorial concern. If she seems curious or slightly concerned about who's contacting you, not in controlling way, but in way that shows she's mentally engaged with your life and who has access to your attention, this territorial awareness reveals investment. Women who don't care about you don't care who's calling you. Women who are interested pay attention to who else has your attention. The deeper pattern. Pay attention to how long she tolerates the interruption before showing reaction. If you're on your phone for more than a minute and she starts to look impatient, shows disappointment, or makes gentle comment about your attention being elsewhere, her intolerance for extended divided attention reveals she values your focus. If you can be on your phone for 5 minutes and she seems perfectly content doing her own thing, the comfort with separation reveals low investment. Notice if she asks about the interruption. If after you finish with your phone she asks, "Everything okay?" or shows some curiosity about what pulled your attention, she's demonstrating care about your life and what's happening with you. If she doesn't acknowledge the interruption at all and just resumes conversation as if nothing happened, the lack of curiosity reveals she's not particularly engaged with your life beyond the immediate interaction. Moment 3. You disagree with her opinion. Her reaction to different perspective. When you express genuine disagreement with something she says, a different opinion about a movie, a contrasting perspective on a topic she mentioned, or a respectful challenge to a statement she made, and you observe her immediate emotional reaction before she formulates her verbal response, this moment reveals whether she values your authentic perspective or expects agreement and validation. What this reveals. This reveals whether she's interested in you as a person with your own views or interested in validation and agreement. Women who are genuinely interested in building something with you respond positively to respectful disagreement because it reveals you have your own mind and aren't performing agreeability to win approval. Women who are expecting to be pursued and validated react negatively to disagreement because it disrupts the dynamic where you're supposed to be impressing her. Notice her facial expression in the immediate moment you express disagreement. If she looks slightly surprised but intrigued, leans in to hear your perspective, or seems engaged by the different viewpoint, these responses reveal she values authentic interaction over validation. If she looks annoyed, defensive, or disappointed that you didn't agree with her, these negative responses reveal she expected support rather than genuine exchange of perspectives. Watch whether the disagreement increases or decreases her engagement. If expressing your own opinion makes conversation more animated and she seems more interested in you. After seeing you'll respectfully disagree, the increased engagement reveals she values authenticity. If disagreement makes her pull back, become cooler, or seem less interested, her negative response reveals she preferred the version of you who agreed with everything she said. The deeper pattern. Pay attention to whether she asks questions about your different perspective or dismisses it. If you disagree and she wants to understand why you see it differently, asks follow-up questions, or engages thoughtfully with your viewpoint, her curiosity reveals she's interested in how you think. If she dismisses your perspective, doesn't ask why you think differently, or quickly moves to different topic, The lack of engagement reveals she's not particularly interested in your actual thoughts and values. Notice if disagreement affects her body language. If respectful disagreement causes her to close off physically, crossing arms, leaning back, creating distance, her defensive body language reveals she's uncomfortable with you having different views. If disagreement keeps her open and engaged, or even causes her to lean in more, her maintained openness reveals she values authentic exchange over validation. Moment 4. Someone attractive walks by. Where her eyes go. When an objectively attractive person walks past your table or through your vicinity during the date. Whether it's an attractive man who catches attention or an attractive woman you might theoretically notice, and you observe where her eyes go and how she manages her attention in that moment. This split second reveals her respect for you, her self-control, and her investment in making you feel valued during your time together. What this reveals? This reveals her respect and consideration for your experience on the date. Women who are genuinely interested in you and want you to feel valued maintain focus on you when distractions appear. They might notice attractive people peripherally, but don't obviously track them or divide their attention because they're invested in making you feel like you're their focus. Women who are less invested or who lack consideration for your experience don't manage their attention carefully because they're not concerned with how their behavior affects you. Notice the difference between brief glance and obvious tracking. Everyone notices attractive people, that's human nature. The revealing behavior is whether she briefly notices, then returns attention to you, or whether she obviously tracks the person, turns to watch them, or becomes visibly distracted. The extent of attention reveals her investment in your experience and her ability to control impulses out of respect for you. Watch whether she attempts to hide her noticing or doesn't bother concealing it. If an attractive man walks by and she glances, but then seems slightly embarrassed, or quickly refocuses on you with renewed attention. Her awareness that you might have noticed reveals consideration for your feelings. If she openly stares, or comments without concern for how it affects you, the lack of consideration reveals low investment in your experience. The deeper pattern, pay attention to whether the same situation reversed, reveals double standards. If an attractive woman walks by and you glance, notice whether she reacts with annoyance, makes comments, or seems bothered by your brief notice. If she expects you to maintain perfect focus while she feels free to obviously notice others, the double standard reveals she expects more investment from you than she's providing. Notice if she uses attractive passers-by as conversation material. If someone attractive walks by and she makes comments about them, or uses it to gauge your reaction, she's testing or creating unnecessary tension rather than maintaining focus on building connection with you. Women who are invested don't introduce distracting variables. They maintain focus on the person they're with. Moment 5. You share something vulnerable. Her immediate emotional response. When you share something genuinely personal or vulnerable, a challenge you're facing, something you're insecure about, a meaningful story from your past, or an honest emotion you're experiencing, and you observe her immediate emotional response before she decides what to say, this moment reveals whether she has empathy and emotional capacity for real connection, or whether vulnerability from you creates discomfort or disinterest. What this reveals? This reveals her capacity for emotional intimacy, and whether she views you as human being with depth or as performer meant to impress her. Women who are interested in real connection respond to vulnerability with softness, empathy, and engagement because they want to know the real you beyond the confident exterior. Women who are only interested in surface attraction or being pursued react to vulnerability with discomfort or disinterest because it disrupts the dynamic where you're supposed to be impressing her. Notice her facial expression when you share something real. If her expression softens, her eyes show empathy, or she leans in with concern and interest, These responses reveal emotional capacity and desire for deeper connection. If she looks uncomfortable, maintains emotional distance, or seems to want to move past the vulnerable moment quickly, these responses reveal she's not comfortable with or interested in emotional depth. Watch whether she reciprocates with her own vulnerability. If you share something personal and she responds by sharing something meaningful from her own life, her matching vulnerability reveals she's comfortable with emotional intimacy and wants mutual depth. If she acknowledges what you shared but doesn't reciprocate with anything personal of her own, her emotional withholding reveals she's not interested in the kind of connection that requires mutual vulnerability. The deeper pattern: pay attention to how she handles the information you shared afterward. If something you revealed in vulnerable moment later becomes inside joke between you, gets referenced warmly, or clearly stays with her as something she remembers about you, her retention and gentle handling reveals she values what you shared. If she never references it again, or seems to have forgotten you shared something meaningful, the lack of retention reveals it didn't impact her because she's not emotionally invested. Notice whether sharing vulnerability increases or decreases her attraction. Some women become more attracted when they see authentic human dimension beyond confident exterior. Others lose attraction when vulnerability disrupts their image of you as strong pursuer. Her response to your vulnerability reveals which type she is and whether she's capable of real relationship or only interested in surface dynamic. Moment 6. The date ends. Her physical goodbye behavior. When the date concludes and you're saying goodbye, whether outside the restaurant, at her car, or when dropping her off, her physical behavior in this moment reveals more about her actual interest than anything she said during the entire date. Observe whether she maintains distance and offers quick formal goodbye, creates opportunity for extended conversation before parting, shows openness to physical contact, or seems eager to end the interaction and leave. What this reveals? This reveals whether she wants the interaction to continue or is relieved it's ending. Women who enjoyed the date and are interested in you don't rush the goodbye. They linger, create opportunities for extended conversation, position themselves close enough for potential physical contact, and generally seem reluctant for the time together to end. Women who weren't feeling it or aren't interested move toward ending the interaction efficiently. Quick goodbye, maintain physical distance, closed body language, and general energy of concluding rather than extending. Notice her body orientation during goodbye. If she faces you fully, maintains open body language, stands close enough for potential hug or kiss, and seems physically present and engaged, her open positioning reveals comfort and interest. If she angles her body toward her car or exit, maintains formal distance, crosses arms, or physically positions herself for quick departure, her closed positioning reveals desire to conclude the interaction. Watch whether she creates or accepts opportunities for physical contact. If the goodbye involves a hug and she initiates it, holds it for normal duration, or seems comfortable with close physical proximity, her physical openness reveals comfort and attraction. If she offers awkward side hug, stiff formal contact, or positions herself to avoid physical touch, her physical avoidance reveals she's not feeling attraction or connection. The deeper pattern: pay attention to whether she references future plans naturally. If during goodbye she mentions something you talked about doing together, references next time, or brings up future possibilities without you prompting it, her forward-looking statements reveal she's already mentally projecting to future interactions. If goodbye involves no reference to seeing each other again unless you bring it up, her lack of future orientation reveals she's not planning continuation. Notice her eye contact during goodbye. If she maintains strong eye contact, seems reluctant to look away, or has warm expression during parting, her engaged eye contact reveals positive feelings about the interaction. If she avoids extended eye contact, seems distracted, or is already mentally checked out, her disengaged eyes reveal she's ready to move on from the interaction. Watch how quickly she leaves after goodbye. If she lingers after goodbye is technically complete, continues brief conversation, takes time getting into her car, looks back before leaving. Her reluctance to actually separate reveals she enjoyed the time and isn't eager for it to end. If she leaves quickly and efficiently after perfunctory goodbye, her swift departure reveals relief that the date is over.